Those guys who've played, they still have a lot of growth. We have freshmen who played last year that are still seeing growth. Kirby Smart talking about his younger players, guys that are really going to matter for the Georgia Bulldogs as this 2025 season gets here. And the fact of the matter is, that's really where we are in college football right now. Younger guys that can play are going to have to play, and they're going to have to play well too. This is a Georgia team that is knocking on the door of being the favorite to win the national championship, despite all of the question marks surrounding the team. But it is going to be younger guys. Nate Frasier. I mean, he's talking in a way about Nate Frasier. Now, that's not specifically what Kirby was asked about. But when he was asked about Nate, he had a lot of good things to say. I'll read you that here in a second. The biggest growth from Nate Frasier from where he was last year, another guy who got here in the summer. So the important thing to remember before I read this from Kirby is, Nate Frasier was not there in the spring in 2024. He got to Georgia in the summer, so about a little bit earlier than this time of the summer. But that's when he got there. He said his knowledge, his pickups, third down, pass mode, knowing when I can get in, when I can get out, when I have to stay in and to protect, how I protect. He said, talking about Kirby, the knowledge and understanding that of that is not having to rely on the quarterback to tell you. I think that's big. The confidence in his run, his ability to give effort and conditioning level is much better than he was his first year. Kirby talking about Nate Frasier. Well, Nate Frasier is going to matter a lot for Georgia this season. He mattered a lot for them last year, and he really was not completely conditioned, completely in full knowledge of what to do his freshman season. And one thing Kirby was talking about as well was, like, as the season went on, they grew more comfortable with Nate Frasier. Well, they really, they needed Nate right away. If you forget, Trevor Etienne, was suspended for the first game against Clemson. Now, they beat Clemson 34-3 or whatever the score. They beat them by 30 points. So it didn't necessarily matter that Etienne was not in there. But, when you're pressing the accelerator quickly on a guy, that's going to make a difference at the beginning of the season. And for these players at Georgia who, I'll say, I've talked a lot about Juan Gaston on here. And I think we're seeing now why. I mean, Juan is a guy that he's not in condition. And I'm not hating. I mean, he's just not in condition. It's nearly impossible to be in condition when you first get to college to play. But like these younger guys, Chris Cole, Daniel Calhoun, KJ Bolton, Justin Williams, these are good players for Georgia. Michael Unley, sorry, I always get that one wrong. Guys, got Nazir Johnson, Ellis Robinson, obviously. Justin Williams, I talked about a second ago, KJ. These are going to be players, Daniel Calhoun, Nate Frasier, Chris Cole. These guys could start this year. So it's hard when you're not completely ready to go, to be ready to go. And now those players have all had at least a season to play. I mean, Uni could start for sure. A lot of those guys I just mentioned could be starters. Calhoun, Uni, Juan Gaston. These are younger players. But Kirby was talking about, guys who had been here a season. But you're right in that. Ellis Robinson, Justin Williams, KJ Bolden, Nate Frasier, Daniel Calhoun, Chris Cole, Dwight Phillips Jr. Those guys they're going to matter this season. They mattered last season in many instances. I mean, Dwight Phillips scores a touchdown against the Gators that wraps that game up. And, they had to have him at that moment. I bet you if they had sophomore Dwight this year, coming into last year, they'd have felt more comfortable at running back. Same thing with Nate Frasier, etc. So it really is about speeding up. It's really about getting these guys in their microwave and letting them grow up faster than you traditionally would. Normally you prepare things in the oven. They don't have time now. They've got to prepare meals by microwave. It's not ideal. It's like we ate in the 80s. It wasn't perfect. A lot of our moms and dads were working. We had to fend for ourselves. Go out in the freezer and get, the Stofers. It was what it was, but it's gonna be critical that the guys I mentioned, Uni. I mean, maybe in Puglisi, but Phillips, Cole, Frazier, Calhoun, Bolden. Definitely KJ Bolden's going to matter a lot. Justin Williams, Ellis Robinson. It's going to matter how those guys develop now. But then you cast an eye towards this season's group, just the top 4 guys on this, in on Dawg Post and recruiting. Griffin, Gibson, Elias Williams, Taylor. I would not at all be surprised if those guys one of those guys really mattered at some point this season, because we just don't see the depth in college programs like we used to because of the portal. And frankly, it all adds up. I mean, y'all know that. It all adds up at the end of the day. Everybody's going to have to do what they have to do to win. And if that means playing someone earlier than you thought you might, so be it. Well, they better be ready quicker. I mean, Bo Walker. There's a lot of people I'm mentioning. C.J. Wiley, perhaps, but Taylor for sure has been mentioned a lot. It's going to be important how quickly you get younger guys ready. And if you can't do that, or if you're not as good as doing that as like Florida or Tennessee or whoever, then you're going to have a long season, because the way younger guys play, that matters now kind of more than ever. And I think that's the part to me where, Georgia has got to quickly get those guys ready to play. I mean, they are one of the top 3. They keep flip-flopping back and forth with Ohio State, Georgia, as who the second favorite is to win the national championship. It's going to matter. I mean, Penn State is an older team. Georgia is not. But I think Georgia has a better roster. They certainly don't have experience the way that Penn State does. They would have in years gone by. That would be like really not hard to even consider, but not necessarily now. But I think, here's what Kirby has to say about Juan. He said Juan's got to get in a better shape. He's a talented player, but he plays a lot of snaps. And as his volume goes up, he struggles to sustain, which is usually the case with freshmen. That's usually the case with folks that are kind of out of condition. You're not used to it. Anyway, he goes on to say they just can't handle the volume, the practice load that they get. He's growing into that. He's lost 25 or 30 pounds since he's been here, but he continues to work hard and work with the ones and the twos and and pickups, pass throws, yada, yada, yada. I mean, Juan is going to have to play. Like, he may start. I don't know that he will. And I don't know what that says about where Georgia's at either. That's another thing that can. I mean, does that mean that they don't like the lineman they've got, and therefore, Juan is this is the wrong way to put it, but the only option? Or is Juan kind of Andrew Thomas territory where it's obvious he's got to do what he needs to do? I think if he's playing guard specifically, that's a spot where a guy can come in and well, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to generalize just from one spot, but I think he has the capability to be a very good player at Georgia. And, we're just going to have to see how that goes as time moves on. His bloodline is insane. I will say that. But, the movement with the feet, all of it. But, I mean, I talk about my time in college a fair amount on here, and the learning process. I played 2 sports in college, and my freshman year was a complete whirlwind. It was not impossible. It was hard to get used to things. Now that's playing 2 sports, but I'm just talking about when I was playing one particular sport, because there were a few days where I had practice on the same day, but typically it was just the one sport, whatever sport that was at the time, and it's going to be overwhelming for these guys, and I'm not even talking about playing at an SEC level of competition. I'm talking about just collegiate athletics in practice. And it gives you an indication of, I'm not where I need to be right now. I'm not at all where I need to be. By my sophomore year, and this is what Kirby's talking about, I would say it was totally different, because you knew what you were running. It's sort of like being dropped off in the jungle. You have no idea what you're getting into. Like, you know how to walk, but you don't know where the tigers are, and you don't know how to fight them. You don't know how to escape. You don't know how to kill them and win. You don't know how to. It's hard to me. And again, I think the nomenclature. I think learning the vocabulary of things and remembering it, and then being able to execute what you're supposed to do is hard. That was the hardest part for me. And I just play basketball and tennis. Like, there is no verbiage in tennis. There was in basketball. And, we would have things that were named after states and, other stuff. I couldn't tell you what Wisconsin was now. And that was one of the main things that we ran. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's just those things. Now, in football, it sounds worse, I think, than it is sometimes. But still, I mean, it's flooding these guys' brains. And more than that, too, it's hard to concentrate when you're out of condition. And there's no way to get in condition for some of these sports until you actually play them. Like, practice is great, and it helps tremendously. But the problem is, do you go as hard in practice as you should go to replicate what it's like in a game? Usually people don't. Usually people do not do that because it's not a game. But that's not an excuse. It's just an explanation for it. So we'll see what these guys do, the younger guys and so forth. I think it's going to be an important season at Georgia in terms of, are you getting the young guys ready to play or not? We'll see.